Many of us love having jobs that we can leave at the office. But for Ellen Hayes of Sitka, her job, in a sense, is her life. She's the director of the Cultural Center in the Sitka National Historical Park. And in these wood-paneled rooms, it's not just blankets that are woven, it's where Southeast Indians can weave their roots. Ellen, you have been the superintendent of the national park here, and it's an historical park. And now you're the director of the Cultural Center, and these all involve a lot of history and historical knowledge. Yet you do not call yourself an historian. Why is that?
When I came here to work, there was a historian. He was a graduate historian. And their way of dealing with history was not my way of dealing with history. And I don't have a degree as a historian. And I have a personal approach to history, and it has to do with folk history as well. Sometimes historians don't deal with folk history. They have they edit out all kind of human interests. And I put it in.
You started with the National Park Service as a secretary and worked your way up to superintendent. I have to believe that that's unusual. First of all, do you know of anybody else who's been in that same sort of a climb in the Park Service?
No, I don't know of anyone else. And in Alaska, there is no one else. I became one of the few women as a superintendent in the National Park Service. I think I was one of 3.
In the entire country?
Yes, in the entire country. And I was the first female American Indian superintendent. So yes, it was unusual, but the time seemed to be just right for it.
Then why was the time right when it happened for you?
I think it was the social attitude in our country, that it was okay to be a minority. It was okay for a woman to advance in a man's world. It was still rare, but it was acceptable.
When you were growing up, did you not believe that it was okay to be a native?
I knew it was not okay to be Indian. It didn't matter what your tribe was. Just to be Indian wasn't acceptable. We weren't an acceptable people unless we left our tribal ways and converted to the Christianized, westernized way of living.
And as a child, did you just accept that? Was that not even questioned?
Yes, it was the way it was. I remember standing at a store as a child to shop for my mom. She sent me up the store for something. And I knew better than to move right up to the counter, just like anybody would, and tell the drugstore owner what I wanted. I waited until the more important people were served, and then I came and moved up to the counter, and I let him talk to me first.
When did you start to believe then that it was okay to be an Indian?
When I saw the Grand Camp minutes of the Alaska Native Brotherhood in 1966, my dad had brought these minutes to his house, and I visited them a lot, and I saw that their theme was to revive the cultural history through taping of the storytellers who had authority to talk about their own clans within the tribe. That was exciting to me.
And that was a new idea?
Yeah. I mean, right out there on the cover of the minutes, that's what it said.
Now, what about your children? Here, you were an adult with children. By the time you recognized that I'm an Indian, I'm proud of it. Did you try to teach that then to your children who were already growing up?
Growing up. What I tried to do was understand it myself, and to take care of the opportunity right in this cultural center. But to promote it myself, when I'd go to the Indian gatherings, I was still learning. Because I've been so much in the center of what's been happening here, I feel like I understand what it's like to be a contemporary Indian today. And I've been researching it and pulling it out and putting it together and in a chronology of events, understanding more and more what it means to be Indian today. I don't know the degree that they're Indian yet, and maybe the storytelling tapes that have been coming out of this program in the last 2 years are the things that are going to help them understand what it means to be an Indian today based on those earlier events.
How important is it to you that not just your grandchild, but all Indian grandchildren do come to appreciate what it means to be an Indian the way that you have come to appreciate it?
Yes. It's more critical than I used to ever believe it would be. And the reason I'm saying that is that as I have been learning what it means to be an Indian, it has to do with exploring the past and seeing the basic elements of a society that could survive through geographic hardships, and survive through illnesses, like the tuberculosis. It was almost like a plague with us. Survive through loss, survive through change, and know how to celebrate life still, even with those losses.
Do you consider yourself on a mission?
I think I've been on the mission. I didn't realize that is the word to use for what I've been involved in. Yes, it's a teaching about meaning. It's a teaching about the forms that it takes in life. It's a teaching about the weaving together well, let me tell you this little story. When I first came out here, I did a lot of listening. And what the man who was in here as our carver said about trees, he said, you never want to take the trees that are in the front along the beach for carving, because they have shielded the other trees, and they're gnarled and they're twisted and they're very strong, and their grain isn't straight. Rather, you take the tree that's been protected and it is straight-grained, it hasn't taken the same beating, but their roots are intertwined. They get strength from one another. That the weaving of the roots makes people strong. And I thought about that. Your identification and your history are your roots. And that makes you strong. You're never a root all by yourself. You're a part of the whole root system. When listening to those kinds of illustrations that were told many times over in this place about life over the long period of time, I began to realize how important those elements are, and to realize what a treasure that is, and not to focus on too many outer things that seem so important, but to focus on what is basic and fundamental.